We're back. Hey, well, once again, a bit of fiddling around this morning. So we took a little longer than normal. It's now 9:51. Affairs from the Heart. Mirador Television broadcasting from the White Hart Hotel in Lewes, East Sussex. And it's a potpourri of a little bit of this and a little bit of that. A little comment here and a little fib there. All the things that should make up a Monday morning where everybody is discombobulated, particularly after such a nice weekend. Everybody streamed to the beach. I didn't, but everybody else streamed to the beach. I had barbecues and had all sorts of things. So Britain went on holiday. But those people who decided not to go on holiday in Britain faced 7-hour waits at Dover and Folkestone, and the M27 and the ring roads and so on were just jam-packed, absolutely jam-packed, as indeed was Heathrow Airport, closely followed by Gatwick, which are having difficulty getting passengers through at any sort of decent speed at all. So I think what you need to do is to say, if I want a 10-day holiday, it's got to be 12 days, 1 day for travel to and 1 day for travel back, and those days will be full, really full. What's happening in the news? The newspaper headlines are threefold again this morning. Several of the papers have picked up on a report that's been presented by MPs that say it says the NHS is in crisis, and I can well believe it is. And until it gets rid of its bureaucracy, it will continue to be so. But then that's our opinion. Essentially, they say there are 20,000 doctors' vacancies. Actually, a few more than that. I think 12,000 doctors places to be filled, and 50,000 for nurses and midwives and backup staff. And those are pretty horrendous figures, I guess, if in fact they're true. The trouble is, I wouldn't trust MPs to do anything that didn't benefit themselves. So it could well be that they actually have bent the report a little bit. Who knows? But that's what the report says. Secondly, Liz Truss and Ricky Shivas, the Chancellor, who are running for the leadership of the Conservative Party and therefore the premiership of the country, we're at it again. And Rishi was accusing Liz of letting the Chinese take over undue influences by pouring in money into our universities and guiding our young minds into a certain way of thinking. And she says that he's gone soft on trying hard to keep trading relationships above board and straight. So that's their two-way fight at the moment. I think, like everybody else, I'm getting heartily sick of this leadership thing. But of course, The thing is, this has been going on for centuries. The trouble with us getting upset is because of the likes of Mirador Television. Is now we're able to present it for analysis and to be discussed here and discussed there. The whole thing is very difficult. It is very difficult, and we are under the spotlight, under the microscope. So we keep on talking these things through ad infinitum and boring the pants off everybody. Anyway, that was the second headline. And the third is that, well, it's split really to the war in Ukraine and the heat and a number of other odd topics. But the NHS led the field. And the debate in Westminster was the next. So whatever you're going to do, when you pick up the paper this morning, you're likely to hit one of those two main stories. The back page is a little bit more lively and welcoming. We seem to arrive back on the scene as far as the middle distance running is for many decades. The UK was famous for its middle distance runners, and then we seem to have lost ground on that. Now we've got the mile champion in the 1500 meters, a worthy second in the ladies 800 meters. Lewis Hamilton came second in the French Grand Prix. The football for ladies took the 2-1 victory, which puts them through against Sweden in the semi-final. So things are looking pretty good on the sporting front. The cricketers have lost momentum a bit, but we haven't really played a test since the last one where we barreled through. So perhaps there's more bright, sparky there. The downside was, of course, is that football gets itself into its usual disarray, and they start to yell and scream at one another, and it is that is sad because the beautiful game is a beautiful game when well played, and it is well worthwhile watching. But when the sordid backroom boys get cracking, it is less than attractive. And that is sad. 9:58. Oh my God, 9:58. Coming up to noon. Let's see now. I managed to get a little bit of eyesight into a couple of programs while we took the break there. Let's see if we can find anything that is worthwhile you're looking at. And I had hoped that I'd got a nice wine story for you, but I don't see that it's turned up. And that's the trouble with this stuff. Is it doesn't? But what I did do is I found this going back to just before lockdown. We did a series of programs with Joe and Lou, in which they analysed the Strictly Come Dancing. Now this is an old one, so don't get excited. The result was the result. But these two ladies are very funny and really do analyse it. So here is not a short, but a 10-minute item of their program. And going back is Joe and Lou. We hope.
Perfect. Okay, let's go to this man, JJ and Amy. And again, another foxtrot from the movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
More quality.
Falling on my head.
More quality. There was he was producing.
What, he needs more quality?
No. He was producing more quality. He did. So the technique for JJ with his footwork and everything, it was a real improvement.
He was really good.
Yeah, I was really impressed with that.
Heels.
So
heel drags, toes, we'll tell you all about them later.
Yes, I can see in his frame. I don't know I don't fully understand his disabilities.
Yeah.
So you could see that his elbows, he was having a bit of trouble maintaining that straight line across with both of his elbows. But
the quality of his footwork was very good.
Yeah.
Very good for week 3. Good quality footwork.
I think there was a slight turning in of his feet sometimes as well, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that. But week 3, I did enjoy it.
So now let's just go on to this one, which I'm circling a big circle.
Oh, are we
on
going
that.
there?
Oh, I just don't even know if I can talk about it. I really don't. Jason and Luba. Jason, one of the nicest guys in the world. Don't really know a lot about Luba.
To it.
A paso doble to Star Wars.
Producers, what were you thinking?
It's not his fault.
No, it's the producers. But Luba, I don't know whether you know, Luba hasn't even seen the film. She didn't even know anything about it. Hadn't heard the theme tune.
Ridiculous.
Didn't know what a lightsaber was.
Ridiculous.
So the poor woman has been given this song that she knows nothing about, doesn't understand the connection to.
The concept didn't work.
It's not.
So let's just talk about his dancing, shall we? What was that?
Luba.
What was his dancing? That wasn't a paso doble. I don't even know.
There was no shaping.
Paso doble. If you want, when you turn off a piece of music and you're watching something with no music.
Yes.
Every dance has a style, and you should be able to figure out that style without even hearing the music. That was paso doble. There was no styling. There was no shaping. He was smiling his way through it, which is not his fault. He was obviously not told.
Well, no, he was enjoying himself. I think he forgot.
Do you know what? I can't say anything good about it. No.
The step that bothered me
the
step that bothered me the most. The step that bothered me the most was the step at the end, where he was marching around and lifting up his knees and with his. What the heck?
I don't know.
I
can't. It wasn't even a paso doble. I don't even know what it was. Move on. Now let's talk about a proper paso doble. Bill and Oti.
Oh, I love Bill. Oti. Do you know what? I think
such a shock.
I think that. I think it's pretty obvious to most people by now that the producers, if one of the professionals has won the year before, their perception of somebody who's maybe not going to be as good, they will give one of those. I didn't say that.
They give whoever won the year before usually gets the duffer.
Bill is no duffer.
No, he's not.
Absolutely. His music, he's so musical.
Obviously.
The musicality that he has.
And
the determination. He was studying dance just for fun before he was even asked to do Strictly. So he's interested in dance already.
Yeah.
Grabbed the opportunity and he is working really hard.
So they were dancing.
Just a big beaming smile.
They were dancing.
I don't even care.
To the good, the bad and the ugly. And you think, well, that's not... On paper, it doesn't seem to work. But it did.
Oti is amazing.
The music did. The choreography worked with it. He had the shaping, he had the styling,
intensity,
he had the face.
The intensity, the face he had.
And the guitar bit, I'm not sure.
No, I think I think a little bit carried away. He could have really managed that a bit better with the flamenco taps and the guitar.
Yeah.
I have to say, but he definitely went
brilliant
with it. Clara did a Moulin Rouge
tango. To the song Lady Marmalade.
It's a cha-cha-cha.
Anyone who dances knows that is a classic cha-cha-cha. Again, that's not her fault.
Not her fault. And Aliash did a very good job considering he was having to listen to tango through a cha-cha-cha timing dance. He did well with her. I think with Clara, I'm struggling to see the soft side of Clara.
Has she had a soft dance yet though?
No. Well, cha-cha-cha and
Well, cha-cha-cha is
Viennese waltz and a tango.
Oh, yeah, her Viennese.
And
they're
they're all
quite
really strong. Yeah, because it was a Halloween one.
Yeah.
They're very strong,
We
and
haven't seen
I'd
it.
like to see something. I need to see some softness in her, and I think that will help us see the improvement that she's making.
But you've got to have that light and shade, haven't you?
Yeah, she's in danger.
But
for
she was,
me at the
she was
moment.
dancing a tango, and a tango is one of those dances where it's one of those mean dances.
I don't disagree with you. But just for me, watching her dance, there's something missing, and I think that's what it is at the moment.
We will grow on that one. We will see if Clara softens. Let's go on to Maisie with from the film Frozen 2. Never seen it. And she was dancing an American Smooth. There's nothing wrong with her dancing, the way she's an actress as well, so she gets everything. There's
Room for improvement.
always room for improvement. She's definitely the best
backwards.
dancer on the show. She's definitely the best dancer on the show. She is,
Okay,
without
yeah,
a shadow
we're
of a
coming out
doubt.
from week 1, yes.
But as we all know, dancing is very subjective. It's like art. You either like it or you don't. She doesn't warm. I don't warm to Maisie, but
I'm
I
not
think her
feeling-
dancing is
Yes.
fantastic. But I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is either, but I'm
But
along
she
with
is
you.
definitely
She's
the
not-
best dancer on the show. But
I'm
the best
rooting
dancers,
for her.
no, the best dancers don't always win.
No.
And her footwork was not clean.
No.
Everything else was really good, but her footwork, she really needs to work on the technique of that. That's missing. And apparently, what made me laugh, she was dancing to Frozen 2. In Frozen 1, Elsa had a blue dress. In Frozen 2, Elsa was meant to be has a white dress. And people were complaining that she was wearing a pink dress.
Because yes, they were, because her main dress is white, but I was listening to Zoe Ball on the way in onto the radio, must have been this morning,
Yeah.
and she was like, no, rewatch the film, she does at some point wear a pink dress.
Oh, well, okay then. Because
So
I just thought
it was.
there were some people got really, really angry about it, and I don't know quite why. Let's go on to our last.
Unknowns.
The gnomes.
Unknowns.
The gnomes, again.
Good characterisation.
Harvey and Jeanette, and they were dancing a cha-cha-cha to the film Gnomes. I don't know anything about that.
No,
either.
I haven't watched it either.
Um,
They were a little bit. I actually thought he'd got some good technique in there. You can see it starting to come through and
Yeah.
emerging out
Straight
of
legs.
it. He was. He can spin, and I think he's definitely learnt that skill before he started
Definitely.
strictly
Definitely
being
got
able
some
to
sort of
spin
dancing.
and spot. But which Jeanette seems to be throwing in on every dance so far, just to
lots
prove
of
that he can do it.
Chaîné turns, is that the word?
That was very good.
I remember the big word.
I don't know.
Again, not one of our
No.
favourites. It's very difficult because especially when it's a themed week and they're dressed up,
The characterisation can take away some of the quality of
exactly.
dancing.
So it looked a bit weird. He was dressed as a gnome doing a cha-cha-cha. So it looked a bit weird for us, but he did a good job. The technique was coming. Thank you for joining us at this particular section of the programme. We'll see you again next week for another fabulous, darlings, review of Strictly Come Dancing. So we'll see you soon.
Bye.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. Ah, you got the combination here, girls. What do you think? Do you think you can do anything with me?
I don't know, viewers. What do you think? Do you think we'll be able to teach Keith to dance in a matter of weeks? What do you think, Joe?
We're up for the challenge.
Definitely.
Oh.
We'll give it a go, Keith. We'll
Okay.
give it a go.
True, Pip.
No chance.
Well, there you are. We've got the results of that attempt to teach me to dance on film, and we will deep that out and show it to you. It's worth a giggle. So the two girls, Jo and Lou, they have a dance school in Ringler, They are very dedicated and very good teachers, I may say. So if you're into a dance, and I know there's a lot of you because of lockdown and so on, are looking for new pastimes, dance is a good one, and do contact them. It's worthwhile. I can't remember what they call their shop right now. Their studio, but we will find out and let you know. Okie dokie. Then it's 10:10, and away we go. Let's tweak somebody's tail, shall we? You know whose tail I like to tweak. Yes, I really do.
Well done, the energy companies. They're full of bright ideas to help their customers. Now they've made power so expensive that for an average house such as this, you can't afford to heat it. So you don't need appliances such as this. But that means you also don't need a fridge, because you can keep your groceries cool and fresh without it. The house is cold enough. Well done, chaps.
There we are. It's not going to get any better. The only thing is, of course, is that with this heat, you haven't needed to get the house hot or cold through energy. Is that going to help? Who knows? Who absolutely knows? But I just don't think we should have been faced with this, really. What are the other possibilities? That we might just take a look at. And mostly the stuff there is weather, unfortunately. But I'm just looking back through our files and seeing if there is anything. Well, I know there's lots there. It's just finding it when you're one pair of hands sometimes is a bit difficult, and it's a pity, really. What have we got here? I have no idea. Well, this one we can't share. So that takes care of that. A lot of this stuff is quite old, and what about this one? Nope. Today is not one of the days. This is a Monday that I shall forget very quickly. Of course, it would be a small operation. If somebody like Suzanne, who fills a big part of our Monday, is ill, then we are scrabbling a little bit, I'm sorry to say. And we can't actually always very quickly cover our tracks. on a Monday morning. We just have to have a little look around and see what we might. See what we might have. Well, we've got a food tasting here, which we did a couple of Christmases ago, I think. That might be. Here are some mince pies with the former mayor, I think, involved, John Lamb. We've got a panel of 3 expert tasters, a mayor, a broadcaster and a salesperson. We're going to start off today with a blind tasting of mince pies. Here we go with Tesco. And Tesco, a butter-enriched pastry filled with spiced mincemeat made with sultanas, currants and raisins. We have got Aldi, and Aldi have 6 classic mince pies with brandy and cognac. Now that's my type of mince pie. Oh my goodness me, specially selected. I could specially select those. 6 night before Christmas mince pies from Waitrose. They have no idea what they're tasting and they're going to rate them. Here they are, the 3 wise men. Oh, I know them, wise, but they've got very good taste buds.
I'm really delighted to have been asked along to try various items of Christmas fare. I have to say, usually Christmas time, I'm full up when it comes to pies and cakes and so forth. So it's a bit of a treat for me to be able to try some in advance. The first one I've got here has got a nice top on it. Looks like a star and a Christmas tree and a whoop. Oh, so this one is not very. Oh, it's fallen apart. Maybe they need to look into that. Quite nice pastry, fruity, and moist too. So not bad, that one. A bit sweet. Now the next one looks much more homemade. It's actually got a clock face. I don't know if you can see that. So they've obviously thought a bit about the design. Ooh. Now this one's very different from the first. You get a strong taste of orange, I think, coming through that. That's interesting. And finally we've got a more traditional sort of lattice on the top, like that. And let's hope this one doesn't fall apart. Pastry's not quite as good as the other two. And the filling is a bit tasteless and too sweet, I would say. So, ranking these in order, I thought that was the most interesting one, followed by this one that fell apart. I'm going to forgive that. And I think the one with the lattice on top is my third choice.
So, the one in the middle that you chose, that is from Waitrose.
Oh, they'll be pleased.
The one on your left is Tesco's, and
They won't
the
be
other
so
one
pleased.
is Aldi on the
Oh,
other
right,
side.
okay. I think Aldi needs to do a bit of work on the pastry.
Hello, my name is Mark and I work at Mirador Television, and I'm now about to try and follow the footsteps of the mayor, which is could be a big task. So we're going to start by trying the mince pies. The first one is latticed, coming out of its cup quite easily. and it tastes like, it's quite fruity. The pastry's sort of quite nice, and it's quite well filled as well. It is quite sweet, but as I quite like sweet things, I'm not going to complain too much.
Well, thank you. And you?
This one is quite a different design. Looks a little bit more like shortbread in a way, but I'm sure that's not how it's going to taste, so we'll give this a little go. I quite like that, but there's a lot of pastry around it and not quite so much filling, but it's a nice mince pie. And last but not leastly, we have another one in a bit of tin foil. Unlike the Mayor, my ones have hung together. That one, I think I would put that as my number 3 choice. The least appetizing as far as I'm concerned. So I would actually choose this one as number 1. This one is number 2, but it is quite a different type of mince pie. And I'd put this one in at number 3.
Your first choice is from Tesco's. Your second choice is from Waitrose. And your third is Aldi.
Hi, I'm James. I'm the everyman brought in for this taste test. I'm being force-fed mince pies from 3 different retailers. Let's have a taste. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty good. I'd say the pastry's a bit dry, but the filling seems quite nice. It's not bad. Let's try the second one here. Doesn't seem as fancy as the first one. Let's find out if it tastes any better though. Hang on. I think the pastry's better on this one. It might be less sweet. The filling's about the same, I'd say. It doesn't really look like a mince pie. It looks more like a big biscuit to me, but let's try it out. Actually, you know what? Even though that one's really strange, I quite like it. It seems less like a mince pie than the other two, but it's still quite tasty. I think I would put the strange clock cake first, and then I'd put the first cake I had, the one with the star on the top. Then I'd have the Latisse last.
So your strange clock cake is your favourite from Waitrose.
Oh, okay.
And your second choice is from Aldi.
Oh, okay.
And the last is from Tesco's.
Interesting. Okay.
The winner of the mince pies was Waitrose.
So off to Waitrose you go.
Yeah, if I can afford it. Thank you.
Well, there we are, done a couple of Christmases ago, once again, just before lockdown, and interesting results of the mince pie tastings. Just take a moment now to bring you up to date. The big event, I think, that this week, on the 31st, Sunday the 31st, is the raft race. But also, I don't have the details, and a little man was handing out flyers in the precinct on Saturday, and it's to do with I think a barbecue and a whoop-de-doo up on the Neville Estate, not Neville Estate. One of the other areas. I don't have the thing with me that he gave me, But I said to him, look, why not get somebody from your organisation to pop down to the White Hart and tell us all about it? He was a bit diffident because he said, well, I'm only really handing out leaflets. I don't know much about it myself. But there is an event up on one of the estates on the weekend, and I think I've got a feeling that's also on the 31st, Sunday the 31st. So lots happening around the town for you to choose from. The raft race particularly is always a great deal of fun and attracts thousands of people, particularly if they decide to turn it into a regatta. And once again, we've asked if somebody would come on and explain the whole thing to us, and we haven't heard back. It's a pity, really, but well, I hear laughter and good fun going on in the lounge across from where we broadcast from. So obviously, some people who are having good fun on this Monday morning in the relatively nice weather. Actually, I mean, it is still 23, 24, but there's a bit more of a breeze and some cloud overcast. At the moment, the high street is bathed in sun again. It's rather pleasant. And so life could be far worse than it is. The news headlines are a bit disappointing. The Tories continue to hammer one another to death. God only knows what is going to fill that gap. But because they are, in our opinion, lightweights, I don't suppose that they really thought about anything other than who actually gets to control the reins, who gets to pull the strings. And as a consequence, it's an unedifying sight. The other big headline this morning is that the NHS is running short of doctors and nurses at a great rate of knots, causing a problem for the patients. Politicians and broadcasters, for that matter, and journalists have a tendency to turn a drama into a crisis. And of course, the headlines are patients at risk and so on. How true that is, it's difficult to say. But perhaps by tomorrow, it'll become clear just how desperate this situation is for the NHS. But I personally have not a great deal of sympathy for the NHS. I'm not talking about the doctors and nurses or the frontline staff. What I'm talking about is the administrators and the bureaucrats who actually run the operation, because it's needed a clear out and reform for quite some time. And people have been calling for it. So why we should be surprised that there is a shortage and that nobody seems to know what to do about it is we shouldn't be surprised at all. We should not. Right, it's time for me to refresh my palate. Let's take our potter's wheel, or in other words, our visit down to the park. It's a nice day outside. It is now 10:29 on the 25th, Monday, the 25th of July, and entering the last week of the month. And it's There is a lot to be done in now. Much is said about food banks, and there was another food bank on Saturday, I guess, in Waitrose, and a lovely choir outside. And unfortunately, it was not a day that I was able to make a contribution, although I normally do. But there was a really very, very good effort made, and I think that we've got some classic video of the time that everybody really got stuck in and got the food banks going. Let's just see if, in fact, I'm right, and if I am, it's worth a little look, I think. So we'll.
My name's Mark Perryman. I've lived in Lewes for about a decade. I'd never really been involved in, I guess, what people would call community campaigning before. I'd always been interested in politics, making a difference, but the coronavirus crisis made me want to do something. And I've kind of been an event organiser since I was a student, so I've got a kind of organisational mind. And I came up with this idea of an all-day food bank collection, which we started at Waitrose on Easter Saturday, and it really grew from there. We started off at one supermarket, and then I contacted the cricket club, Lewes Priory Cricket Club, and I said to Peter, I said, would you come in your whites? He said, yeah, we're coming our whites. Well, they turned up outside Waitrose in whites, pads, padded gloves, helmet, visors down. And so everybody who was going to Waitrose knew that Lewes Priory Cricket Club cared about food poverty, and that's what switched in my mind. I thought, why don't we create not a kind of coalition which is like a committee, but a public and visual coalition. So on our Saturdays we have 9 sports clubs, 7 bonfire societies, 4 churches, 3 political parties, bands, musicians, artists, poets, keep fit fanatics, chefs, a yoga group, a book group, through the whole day. And we've expanded across all 3 supermarkets, Aldi, Tesco's and Waitrose. It's an extraordinary visual coalition of a town that cares. And also we're saying food poverty exists in this town, in this wonderful town of ours. There is food poverty, and that stretches to childhood malnutrition. Of course, we shouldn't have to do something about this. We're the 6th richest economy in the world, for goodness sake. We shouldn't have to have food bank. And this is where I get quite emotional. In '84, I was out collecting tins of food for striking miners. And when people say, sorry, I always well up at this. When people say, what are you doing this for? I say, because now we're having to collect food for our neighbours. You know, that's the state that we're in. Obviously that's been created by the coronavirus crisis, but don't go away with the impression it's going to get any better next year, because then there will be the redundancies and the mass unemployment. And so this is a desperate need, and of course we shouldn't need to have to collect for food banks. But in the here and now, you know, I wanted to stop people being starved back to work. I want to stop people having to starve through Christmas. So, and we're making a difference. We're making a massive difference in this town. We enter each item of food that's been collected. The food bank gives us a list of 24 items they need. So we're not only collecting quantity, it's quality. So we can lift people's morale and lift their health as well. Then we have a very complicated system of delivery to 3 different food banks, Lamport, Mallings and Fitzjohn's, all through the day. Some of them have different needs to others. What we do is we ensure that each food bank gets a third from Tesco's, a third from Aldi, a third from Waitrose. People start by going out on their Saturday shop, and we ask them to add 1 item to their shopping list. Lots of people are generous and they add considerably more, but all we're asking is for 1 item, and that adds up to 5,661 items by the end of the day. And then we have our secret shoppers. We will raise something in the region of £700 through donations. People who can't come out on the day, can't help, they're not shopping, they'd like us to collect something. Our secret shoppers go into the supermarket, and because we've recorded everything's been donated, we see, oh, we're a bit short of coffee, we're a bit short of bars of chocolate, we're a bit short of cereals, and we bump that up. Lewes is a town full of sounds, isn't it? We've got 13 choirs, we've got brass bands, we've got ska, we've got folk, we've got 7 panto casts. They're going to be there collecting, and they're going to be singing, "He's behind you," "No, he's not," "Yes, he is." You know, there'll be all of that. And it's another symbol of a town coming together. We will be socially distant, we will be wearing masks and visors, and we'll be keeping back. But just to remind people that, you know, the spirit of Christmas is needed more than ever.
Well, there we are. The whole idea, the whole concept of the food bank has gained strength, and it is often to be seen at various organisations collecting for the food banks, but also providing some music. And I have to say, I don't know who the choir was on Saturday morning outside Waitrose. They were damn good. In fact, they were excellent. And they kept. I mean, I went away and I did things, and I came back to Waitrose, and they'd been going for a good 2 hours and keeping everybody amused and entertained. And the amount of food, I assume, is what they collected, was very impressive. So our food bank efforts are still well underway, still very well organised, and still very well supported. And as the gentleman said, there is it is a pity that you know, in the world's 4th largest economy, sometimes the 3rd largest, that what we have to do is to rely upon food banks to feed some of our people. But we do, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. You can lay out the best plans in the world. There are always exceptions. There are always reasons why things don't go according to plan. So do give to the food banks if you possibly can when they're outside one of the 3 big supermarkets. It's not only outside Waitrose, except that Waitrose, of course, is closer to the centre of the town than the other 2, but Aldi are equally as generous, and so are Tesco. So the 3 main supermarkets support very much the food banks and the idea of trying to help those who do need help in getting food. I must say that as I get a little older, I find that I have some limitations as well. And while I'm fiercely independent, I do recognise that some people, for instance, aren't able to shop for themselves. They aren't able to always afford all the things that they need in the kitchen. So there are organisations that help people, and don't be afraid if you're my age, 35 plus, to look up these organisations, give them a tootle, and say, "Look, please give me help." They are extremely good, and they're very sympathetic, and they're always nice people. Nice people, sort of ready to help in every notifications. You keep on getting these things, and you ignore them at your peril. Some cases they say, if you don't act now, you've had it, mate. So you have to look at those sort of things. Right. Once again, I'm going to push this because it is one of those great events in in Lewes, and that is the raft race on Saturday. I accidentally poached that, and it just shows how easy it is for stuff that's sitting there in the store to come up and be ready to go on the air. The trouble is you can't always find what it is that you want. So while I'm talking, I sometimes am looking to see whether there is stuff that is worthwhile. We some things that I don't understand the well, there's something here that says a master for Mirador. Well, I wonder if what we might do is get a couple of minutes off that. Let's see.
Sometimes accused of being asleep at the switch, lax with the regulations, or even failed to look after the vulnerable. The old man has deep concerns about how the issue of mental health is being handled by them.
This morning I woke up to find out that I was an assassin. This series is about Tanya, who has mental health problems, and to some extent about me, who's been an unpaid, an untried, and untrained minder, carer for almost 4 years. I've learned on the job. And it is not easy, because abuse comes 3 or 4 times a day, and often 7 days a week. You learn to put up with it if you've got any sort of broad shoulders, which hopefully I have, but it's not pleasant. And it's the sort of thing that you don't really want to happen to anybody other than yourself. But it does. There are dozens of people in our community here, let alone around the country and around the world, who suffer the same thing on a day-to-day basis. But one of the things that I find difficult to understand is, and I mentioned this in the last episode, this lady, Tanya, was supposed to have a nurse. And she was supposed to have a social worker. And the court asked, the tribunal asked, if temporarily she could stay with me so that she could be released from a horrific containment. You know, well, let's face it. One flew over the cuckoo's nest. It was a cuckoo's nest in Eastbourne. What was one to say? So I agreed to the temporary measure. That tribunal took place about 2 years ago. The nurse introduced herself and was never seen again. The social worker came once and probably declared that he didn't like this work and he was quitting, you know, sell cars or something. So that was the backup. That was the backup that the state gave after the tribunal had ordered this lady to be released. They ruled that, yes, she had mental health problems, but not severe enough to be contained in an institution. And I'm glad that that's the way the court ruled. It's the only sensible ruling that I've ever had on this matter. Anyway, here I am, 2 years down the line, still a carer, still unpaid, still no support whatsoever from the people that I would have expected should support, if not me, Tanya. And this isn't a plea for me, this is a plea for Tanya and for all those people who are suffering mental health. They go through the same experiences. The last couple of days I've spoken to a former social worker, pretty good at her job. And she explained that by me agreeing to help this lady for a couple of weeks until the council found her a place to live, meant that she actually slipped off their radar. There isn't anybody looking to try and help her now. There isn't a file. There isn't another social worker. She has simply become a disappeared. And I don't exist. And I, according to this lady, will be held culpable by the state for having given her a roof over her head in the first place, because that stopped anybody finding her a place to live. If that's true, that is the most outrageous thing that I've heard in a long time, and far worse than some of the things that I've witnessed myself. What does the state think that the individual should do? Yes, of course we should try and do our best. But our best is only our best. We're not getting any part of the £12.2 billion spent on mental health. In the last budget we
How are you?
declared.
What are you doing here?
We need the help of professionals. And is it there? No. Not at any level.
Where are you
Not from
from?
the chief executive of the local council, the MP,
Right, do you want to
or I'm told that there is somebody in housing.
You're so beautiful.
No, none.
Amazing.
None whatsoever. The only attempt that
Lovely to meet you.
I witnessed to help this lady is I got a call during lockdown, or just before lockdown, to ask if she was with me. Excuse me if I got hiccups this morning. It's not because I've been drinking at breakfast time. The answer to this gentleman was, she is here. And I said, I've been waiting to hear from you chaps because, you know, the follow-up of care. No, he said, I'm only just making sure that she's off our homeless list. Perhaps somebody else will call you, perhaps. Well, that was the start of lockdown, so 8 months ago. And that's the only thing in 4 years that have been ever helpful in any way. This lady becomes one of the dispossessed. Nobody wants to know. Somewhere she's got a head over a roof over her head, and somewhere there's somebody as daft as Hayes to be looking after her. And how do we avoid any complaints from Hayes or any a claim for even a modest amount of assistance? We lose the bloody file. That's what we do, because that's our standard way of dealing with things, is we lose the file. It appears from the information I was given in this last discussion that social workers have about 30 cases, not necessarily to do with mental health, but they have 30 or so cases which they can barely master, they can barely look after as it is. £12.2 billion. Oh, where on earth is that going? Well, it sure as ain't going into mental health down here. That's for sure. And as for training, it's duck and dive from the authorities. They're not a bit interested in helping. They're civil servants, you see. All they want is promotion and 75 holidays a year. And as for the MPs, my God, we've got to work in lockdown, so first of all let's give ourselves £10,000 and then let's give ourselves 3,000 more, because it's far worse for us to work at home during the pandemic than it is for anybody else. Oh yes indeed, £12.2 billion. Oh, perhaps that's where it's going. But it sure as hell isn't going towards helping mental health, or at least nothing obvious. And as usual, they manage to create rules that are in their favour.
Okay, you say, oh, why don't you march down and confront these people? Well, I've tried that. Oh, it's the Data Protection Act, you see. The Data Protection Act prevents them, unless I'm an actually relative, from asking any questions or being given any information. The fact is, the relatives don't want to know. Yes, she does have some in the southeast. But the relatives don't want to know. I'm the only thing standing between her and ending up on the streets. Oh, but we can't talk to you. Data Protection Act, you see. The Data Protection Act. Oh, by the way, I got a letter from you saying that you had looked into my bank account. Oh, yes. Well, we have a clause in which we can actually bypass the Data Protection Act. Well, why don't you use that on behalf of the mental health? Oh, we couldn't do that. Oh, certainly not. It's only when it comes to dinging you for monies which we figure you owed with the nastiest letters that you could ever imagine. Oh, well, the computer actually does those letters. Yes, somebody really should make them better. Ha! Well, tell the damn computer people. Computers are they only send what's put into them. You know, the whole system is weighted against us helping anybody in our society. And then we have the politicians saying, society doesn't care anymore, isn't it dreadful? Well, it is, because you're steering us in that direction. And it's impacting on people like Tanya. The other morning, she didn't rant at me. She was crying. It was the day that she was supposed to get a letter from the daughter that was taken away from her 8 years ago. And that could bear some investigation. But no, we can't do that. Oh, the courts have ruled. The system is just weighted against everybody except the establishment. And it's time that they started to look at these things. I may be totally unjustified in some of the things I'm saying, but nobody bothers to look. Nobody will answer anything. Everybody finds an excuse not to, and that annoys the hell out of me. Because we are supposed to be living in a free society, and we appear not to be. At least not when it makes the establishment, our leaders, uncomfortable. Then it's not so free, after all. I'll talk about Tanya crying, that she didn't get the letter that she's supposed to, and that there's nobody to deal with it, because they've all moved on. That's where probably the £12.2 billion goes. They moved on to better pay, better conditions, and to hell with the rest. Tanya's story, it's so intertwined with incompetence, self-interest, and who knows, £12.2 billion. Where's that gone to? Thank you, Taze.
He's an icon in American journalism. No punches pulled there. Here's Mark Landsman, all the way from Florida.
Have you heard? Let me spell that. H-E-R-D. Have you heard? You know, President Trump is very active again on the campaign trail. holding rallies, attracting these big crowds, many without masks, challenging the wicked pandemic. It's like nothing at all is wrong, while so much of it really is. This high noon with science occurs at a time when the deadly virus is really still very active and just refuses to disappear as promised. The Trump strategy is saying, to hell with this threat, just to hell with it. We should all resume a normal life. The herd plan that suggests catch it, get over it, and all will be well again. The people with stethoscopes and microscopes believe this will bolster the death rate, suggesting that masks, distancing, caution is the best line of defense until a vaccine is available, and that's not tomorrow. Sadly, our president is very willing to risk many lives in pursuit of his own re-election. Voters will decide the road ahead in just a matter of weeks now, hopefully putting an end to the madness we experience that affects and infects America, its health, safety, its values, its respect. I'm Mark Lansman.
When you've missed the train, don't despair. Have a nice cup of coffee. And perhaps a mince pie. At the runaway on Lewis Station. After that, why worry about the next train? The runaway on Lewis Station. Relaxation beyond compare.
Do you like model railways? Do you like real trains? Or perhaps a little bit of travel? We show a little bit of everything in our tourist program.
Well, there we are. We'll come back to reality. That last one, a look at where you might like to go on holiday through a combination of model railways, real railways, and some touristy films of the Canadian Rockies. Looking back, it's lovely to see the lovely Annie Verrill back on screen, a natural presenter who is going on to great things as well. I'm not absolutely sure that we fought like cat and dog when she worked for us. I'm not sure whether I really want to end up in court where she's the prosecutor or whether she's the defense. I don't think I'd get much change, but I haven't been in touch with her for some time, and I hope that her career in the law has taken a great stride forward, and that she achieves all she wants to achieve. It's always good to see her back on the screen. And that was once again a program that we did just before lockdown, or just into lockdown. And the section on MAD is the situation today is no better than it was then. We hear a lot about mental strain and mental health. We don't hear much about what's being done about it, except for those things that people want to hear. The charities are doing very well, thank you. Yes, the government is putting money in. Don't know that anything much else has changed, and that's sad. Right, I think that it's now 9 minutes past 11, and I've been with you since 7:30 on Rouser Radio and 8:30 on Mirador Television. I'm sure that you've seen enough of me, but I hope that we brought a little sprinkling of stuff to you that make you pause for a moment and think, yeah, perhaps there is part of life that's worth living. So until tomorrow, when we normally have Fergus Wood on to tell you all about wine, I'm going to say toodle, 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 pip. I think I'm going to say that anyway. Let's see whether I can get to it. Not always possible, I'm afraid. But no, we're going to just go to one of the oldies and say cheerio, and hope that you'll rejoin us tomorrow because we love having you. We love bringing this stuff to you, and we're very here is a tune pip.